Okay, so now we are going to go through the entire mapping process for this beautiful client. I always want you to remember to start off getting your content. There is never too much content. You always need to get it with your phone, with the real camera, have beautiful lighting. It's aesthetically pleasing to have a nice background, but what's most important is to ensure the comfort of your client throughout all of this. It is a permanent makeup tattoo on the face, so it's pretty uncomfortable, but on top of that, you just want to make sure your client is really comfortable. Now, the first thing I do when I get started mapping is I ask my client to hold, I clean off the brows first, of course. We saw that in the last video. And then I ask my client to hold the other end of the string. Once my client is holding the other end of the string, I am going to actually coat it with one of the black pencils. One of your black pencils will be properly sharpened, but the other one you will use to coat the string. So then you use the entire face to put that middle line in. And remember to always balance your string between your middle fingers so that way you can use the thumb, the pointer finger, the ring finger to help you control the string. First things first is to get that middle point using the center of the lips, the center of the nose, up until that widow's peak if they have one. And then from there, you start with the brow that is the most strong naturally. So the one that has the most shape, the most hairs, that is something like what you want to recreate because we want to always create a natural brow. Ask them to open their eyes on that last one because then you can kind of see. And what you notice is I turned that string to the side and then turned it straight. So I did that because I always want my lines to be straight because that'll be key when using your measuring tool to copy and paste over on the other side. So now that I have my middle line, my front line, my arch line, and my end of tail line, I then go in, recoat my string if necessary, and I begin to create the shape. Now, I want to make sure that we don't overthink creating the shape. I know this is the most tedious part, the most important part of doing a client service, but you want to remember that at the end of the day, you're a girl and you're a beauty professional, and it's as simple as 4 lines. Truly, it's as simple as 4 lines. Now, you see that I'm using my index fingers to stretch the skin up, starting on that bottom line. You want to create a line to enhance the bottom of it. So you see how I first went to the center line, right? And then I'm doing little lines. I'm not trying to do it all in one stroke, but I did about 5 little lines to create those 2 main points. And the same thing on the tail. I also want to make sure that top line is very parallel. You don't want it to indent in or to be too sharp. You just want it to be very much parallel to that bottom line to create that shape. So then once you create that shape, you then close off the top of it and boom, the first brow is done, y'all. This is not sped up. This is not slowed down. It really took me less than 2 minutes to create that brow. Now, I understand that I've been doing this for a very long time and I'm a master at it at this point. But it is essential to know that it's just really that simple. So don't overthink it. And if you see your lines getting too messy, it might be because you're not stretching the skin, because you're not pulling that string when you're going back and forth, or because you just need to start over and make sure that your line is super clean. Now, to go ahead and copy and paste on the other side, you see I grabbed my measuring tool and I then measure the points from the center line, always referencing that center line when creating it. So once I measure the center line to that first line, I then hold that in that same measurement point, and now I go over to the other side, and as I did it, I marked it by pressing the measuring tool into the skin and immediately catching that indent by marking it with my sharpened pencil. So now I go back in with the measuring tool and I'm measuring from the center line to that middle line, that arch line. And I got to keep moving it until I get it perfectly aligned. No matter if I have to redo the lines, darken in the lines, whatever I have to do, I have to make sure that that measuring tool does not move when it's time to copy and paste it onto the other side. So I'm getting it perfectly aligned on top of the lines, and make sure you're not in the brow, but right above the brow. And once I measure that perfectly, I then will take that point and copy and paste that to the other side. And then once I do that, you're going to mark it with that very flat sharpened pencil onto the other side. Now I'm going to take that middle line and go from the middle line to the tail. From the middle line to the tail. Okay? Go from the middle line to the tail, and from there, copy and paste it onto the other side. So once you do that, you copy and paste it, and then you're going to mark it where the indent lands. And that is the full length of the brow. And you want to make sure that your measurements are on point. Go back in with your measuring tool to ensure the lengths of each point is aligned. So that way we don't have to face the issue of there being one brow longer than the other or even wider than the other by turning the measuring tool sideways and ensuring that the width of it is the same. So now before I get started on the other side, I'm going to have my client hold the string again. I recoded the string, and I just extended those lines and the points where I made little marks from the pencil when I got the shape. The widths, excuse me. And so then I'm going to now remark all three of those points where I put the pencil for the front line, the arch line, and of course the tail line. Now once I do this, I am then going to even recoat my pencil again because it just ensures that your lines are extremely sharp. So it's very important to make sure your lines are clean and very sharp. So then we go in and we get the bottom line, and we keep taking little bits by bits and going to the extent of the top line. And I always like to go from the front of the bottom line, making sure our X marks the spot in the middle of that center line to ensure the widths are the same, and dragging that out to the tail with slight arch. I don't like a super archy brow, but I also don't like a super flat brow, but it really depends on the face of your client. So you have to be key to understanding your client. As we can see, this is a more mature woman. She doesn't want anything too drastic. She doesn't wear a lot of makeup. She's naturally beautiful. She has very little and sparse brow hairs, so you never want to do anything that's going to look very shocking and different from what she currently has. And you really don't want to do that for anyone. I always recommend starting off very, very, very conservative with all clients. But that's just what I prefer. You have to get into this and really see your style. But you'll see that ombre brows is not so forgiving. So starting conservative is always key. I went back in, and as you see, I went over each side and I darkened the lines to ensure it really stood out before I showed her brows. And then we're going to then take your mirror and allow your client to see exactly what you did. But before we show her, you want to clean up as much as possible. So as you can see, I have these precision sticks, and I'm taking away that pointy, sharp arch. I'm taking that pointy, sharp arch away and allowing it to still have an arch, but allow it to look more natural, and clean up the lines so that way none of the lines are really fat. The lines are really thin, so that way when you're doing your outline, it can be very seamless to know exactly where you should follow and how your results should look, because it's not confusing on what part is the top or the bottom of the line that we're following. You'll understand what I mean the more you're practicing. But even when you're on skins and you see the white on the skins, you need to either decide if you're going to follow the top of that line or the bottom of it, because that line is really thick, and you never want your outline on a real human to look that bold, because then you'll notice that it's a tattoo, and the outline should not be seen to other people. The outline should only be seen to you. So be very cognizant of that when moving forward, with doing your outline and shaping your brows and cleaning up your map before actually moving into the micro shading. So now I'm consulting with my client in this, and you can see that she's nodding and saying yes, and I'm explaining to her where I'm going to take the hair away from, and it's very little hair that I'm taking away from her natural shape. That's because she naturally had very sparse, thin, fine brows. But consult with them, get them feedback. If they say yes, then we can move forward.